Hello everyone, today we're looking at the outbreak of war, and this is our last lesson in our Germany unit. So we have now effectively covered all of America and all of Germany, and at the end of year 9 you are halfway through all the content for your GCSEs. Our objective today is to look at why war started in 1939. Why did war not start in 1938 or 1940? Why was it in 1939 that World War II broke out? We'll be looking at that in a few different ways. But again, coming back to Hitler's foreign policies and how these policies led to conflict. So we've got four keywords to look at. We have the Polish corridor, annex, blitzkrieg, and appeasement. Two of these should be review for us, and Polish corridor and appeasement are words that we have used in the past. Annex and blitzkrieg are new ones. Now, the Polish corridor is that strip of land that gave Germany and Poland access to the Baltic Sea. And that was important for shipping, being able to get goods in and out of Poland, but also for Germany to maintain that land to connect where East Prussia was to the rest of the country. To annex is to take over land or territory. Blitzkrieg translates into English as lightning war. It was a new method of warfare developed by the Nazis. The big plan with Blitzkrieg is you send your aircraft in first, and they just bomb the entire area. Then your armored tanks go in very shortly after, in this case a matter of hours, and use the heavy armor to destroy any kind of defenses. And then your soldiers on foot go in last, and they kind of clean up the mess, if you will. And lastly, appeasement. This is keeping someone happy so long as it's reasonable. This was Britain's policy towards Nazi Germany and towards Hitler. And they only realized after they were tricked into giving Hitler the Sudetenland that appeasement was not working successfully and should probably consider adjusting their approach to be a bit more firm with Hitler. So we're going to do story time, and we're going to simplify the entire start of the Second World War into a story that's suitable for very small children. So let's gather around. So look at this as a fairy tale gone wrong. So once upon a time, there was a big and powerful man named Mr. Chamberlain from Britain, Mr. Stalin from Russia, Mr. Daladier from France, and Mr. Hitler from Germany, are four key players. Now, some of these men were friends, some were enemies, and some of them had never met in person before. Now, by 1939, all their paths would cross and would change the course of history. All of the other big nations in the world knew that Hitler wanted to take over Poland, and nobody wanted that to happen. They all decided to use the policy of appeasement to keep Hitler happy. Mr. Chamberlain from Britain and Mr. Daladier from France, they decided to protect their own countries and wanted to form a friendship with Mr. Stalin. Now, in April of 1939, these four relationships are going to come crashing down. Some people will become friends, some will become enemies, and this is what's going to lead to war in September of the same year. We can look at this as a little bit of a love story. So in April of 1939, we have Neville Chamberlain of the UK and Daladier of France. And they are friends, they're allies, they're working together, and they've been cooperating together on the policy of appeasement with Nazi Germany. Now, after the Sudetenland crisis, they realized that their policy wasn't working, but they're going to maintain that friendship and try to solve the issue. Now, what they're going to try to do is become friends with Joseph Stalin of Russia. If they can get Russia on board, they will effectively form a bit of a circle around Germany. And this might discourage Hitler from trying to invade any countries in the future. Now, by July of 1939, we have Neville Chamberlain and Daladier. They're still friends. Nothing's changed between them. And they're wooing Joseph Stalin. They've almost got him on board. They've been having lots of conversations with him. And even though he's a communist and they're both capitalist, they're going to try to make an agreement. Now, in early August of 1939, things start to change. The relationship between France and England hasn't, but talks with Stalin have ground to a stall. They're not continuing. But Joseph Stalin is becoming a little bit friendly with this man, Adolf Hitler of Nazi Germany, and they're starting to have secret conversations about forming an alliance. Now, by late August, within the course of just 1 month, The relationship between the UK and France has not changed. The relationship between them and Stalin has deteriorated. Stalin has made an official agreement with Nazi Germany. So if we look in the course of just a few months, we went from starting to build a relationship to nearly having an alliance, to that alliance being broken down entirely, Joseph Stalin forming a new alliance with Hitler, and eventually forming that agreement between the two countries. And this is going to leave our two men from the Allied sides in a bit of a sticky situation. They're really not sure what to do now. They've got two countries working together who the Nazi-Soviet pact. Everyone realized that Hitler's next target would be Poland. This was no mystery. Hitler needed more land for his Lebensraum policy, and Poland was the next sensible place for him to invade. So Chamberlain promised to defend Poland, but he couldn't physically defend Poland. Britain's army was too small, and Poland was too far away to actually have any kind of permanent military force there. Chamberlain was hoping that just the promise of backing up Poland would be enough to discourage Hitler from any further invasion. Now, in April of 1939, Stalin suggested an alliance of Russia, France, and Britain against Germany, and that's what we just saw in the previous slide. Hitler would not be able to invade if he knew going into Poland would mean a war with Russia. However, negotiations dragged on into late August because Chamberlain mainly didn't like communists and he did not want to work alongside Joseph Stalin. Poland would not let Russian troops go into their own country, and Stalin didn't trust France and Britain that they would actually stand up and fight back. They watched the way that France and Britain behaved when Nazi Germany wanted things like the Rhineland or Anschluss or the Sudetenland and thought that these countries were a bit weak-willed. They wouldn't actually stand up and have the stomach for a fight. Out of the blue, on the 23rd of August 1939, Hitler made the Nazi-Soviet pact with Stalin, promised not to go to war with each other, and there was a secret clause where they both agreed to invade Poland together and split the country into taking the resources for themselves. So why do it? Why did Stalin decide to go along with Hitler rather than Chamberlain? So Stalin, he needed time to build up his army, uh, getting ready for any kind of an invasion. And Stalin would not have to go to war if he allied with Britain and France, but he could have half of Poland if he decided to side up with Hitler. So we can now see from Stalin's perspective, going with the UK and France just wasn't a decision that he was ready for. He wouldn't have an army in time if war did break out if he decided to go along with the UK and France. But if he decided to make an agreement with Hitler, he doesn't really have to do much of anything, and he gets half of Poland for himself. So we've got a source here. We're going to have a look at it together, and then you need to answer the associated question. So it said the pact left Britain and France to fight Germany alone. Hitler did not really believe that they would go to war over Poland, but almost had second thoughts when Britain's reaction to the pact was the signing of a formal alliance with Poland on the 25th of August, 1939. This time, Britain and France would not be able to back down, but the Anglo-Polish alliance, that means the relations between England and Poland, did not change anything. It only took a few days for Hitler to recover his nerve and order that Poland be invaded on the 1st of September 1939. We'll find three ways that sources suggest the Nazi-Soviet pact brought war closer. So we're trying to find ways that the Nazi-Soviet pact led to war. So now's the time where you can pause the screen, review that source again, and see if you can find three ways that this led to war. Great, so we've had a chance to look at source C again. There are three ways that war could have been brought nearer. So first of all, it left Britain and France to fight Germany alone. Hitler did not really believe that they would actually go to war over Poland. So if he invades it, he thinks the policy of appeasement will carry on and he can just take more land without any consequence. It led Britain to sign an alliance with Poland on the 25th of August 1939. This meant that Britain could officially not back down. They signed a written agreement saying that they would stand up with Poland against Germany, and it encouraged Hitler to recover his nerve. Hitler really didn't think that Britain would stand up against him. So we figured the 1st of September, I'll invade, nothing will come of it, and I'll be able to have more land in the east. So a task for you to do, and this will really help to summarize all of Unit 7. It's one of the best revision resources that you can make for this unit, is to create a timeline of Hitler's foreign policy events. And you can do this by using Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or even by hand. But what you need to look at is the name and date of the event or the policy, a brief description, what his goal was, and how the Allies responded. And we have all of the events that took place in this unit listed below. So this is a chance you can pause the video, take a note of these, and just arrange them in order with a description of each, what the goal was, and the response. So for example, the disarmament conference, this is when Hitler was trying to get his army built up or to get all the other armies around him reduced in size. And he said to France, hey, your army's too big. Instead of me making my army big like yours, why don't you make your army small like mine? France disagreed and Hitler left the conference. Okay, so now it's time for our bonus facts. So World War II was very different from the start of World War I. We all know the story about the four main causes of the First World War: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism, and then that sparked with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. But Blitzkrieg was really different. This was Hitler's plan to very quickly conquer different areas of Europe. And it all started off by moving into Poland and then into France. And Blitzkrieg, as mentioned before, this is when Hitler would send in his aircraft first, so they would leave Germany, and they would bomb regions of the country he wanted to take control of. The tanks then move in immediately after and get rid of any kind of defense, and the soldiers on foot then move in and kind of round up prisoners and do the cleaning up, if you want to say that. The war didn't seem real at first, and until 1941, World War II was actually known as the phony war because there wasn't any real fighting going on. For the war to actually have fighting, British troops needed to get into mainland Europe. And by 1940, Hitler had taken over France, and he had taken over many other countries within Europe, and he formed what was called the Atlantic Wall. All around the northern coast of Europe was a fortress, and you could very seldom get in without being noticed by the Nazis. So for the first 2 years, not a lot of fighting took place, and for this reason, the war didn't seem that real to people. So that is officially our Germany unit finished. We have done units 1 to 7 in Germany and 1 to 7 in USA. We'll be picking up with Elizabeth next time. So make sure you check Show My Homework, complete any tasks that are set by your teacher, and complete the quiz as well.